Well, I want to talk about Tampa because this is really the crux of where everything starts going extremely well for you and your career. And you get there in 2016 with Jason Light. He basically hires you to replace John Robinson, who went on to become the Tennessee Titans general manager. No team is kind of perfect when it comes to the draft, but what you guys did in Tampa was remarkable. From Chris Godwin to Tristan Wirfs to Vita Vea, Antoine Winfield, Bucky Irving, Yaya Diaby, Luke Gedeke, late round guys, small school guys, like whatever it is, you guys were able to find so many great players. I could go on and on over here. What was the common thread in how you scouted and evaluated talent during that stretch to the point where this roster was so good that, of course, a few years later, Tom Brady comes in?
It was a lot of hard work led by Jason Light and our all of our scouts. We had a lot of great conversations. We didn't start out when I got there in 2016. We won 9 games, and then we hit a little bit of a rough patch, and we had to be pretty self-critical of the players that we were selecting and signing in free agency, and understand where we missed, um, and then have a plan to come off of that. And it just got to a point where we all put our heads together, and we wanted to know what we want a Buccaneer to look like. What do we want these players to be that we either pay a lot of money to in free agency, or we use high draft picks on. And we kind of found that "I am that man" moniker that we talked about all the time. And there was a led by Jason. He said all the time, we don't miss on the player, we miss on the person. And so we really believed in that, and we made that kind of the central piece of our scouting process. We were going to commit to the person. We were going to almost demand that the person that we were selecting was a love it football person, that they were competitive as hell, that you almost had to, in a sense, kill them to get them off the field. Like the idea of put the football down anywhere and we just want to play. That became paramount. And there's always a temptation when you watch athletes move around. I mean, one of the drugs for me is to put on film and see somebody do something incredibly difficult and make it look extremely easy just because they're so gifted athletically. But more complicated is to find the driven, competitive, high emotional intelligence person that usually outlasts just the talented person. And when you find that person and they have the body of a Tristan Wirfs or a Vita Vea, that's, to me, I think, where you start hitting home runs. And I give Jason so much credit for leading us through that and empowering, myself and Rob McCartney and Mike Beal and Mike Greenberg to kind of organically work with our scouts to develop a system where we all believed in it because we had worked on it together, and then we made it to come to life.
I just look back at the roster last year. The Buccaneers had 44 homegrown players on their initial 53-man roster. That is incredible. It's kind of unheard of in today's NFL, especially with all the hype that free agency gets. How much does that kind of continuity help an organization and a team? And just how proud were all of you guys from the scouting side to see that happen when the 53 was all set?
Yeah, we were super proud. I don't think any of us were acutely aware of that number, and then the other one so we were really proud when we read that the PR department, Nelson and Mike and everybody put out. That was really cool to see, because it wasn't something that we had thought of that much. We were just trying to, select and sign good players as much as possible, or re-sign good players. I think all 22 of the last three draft picks or draft classes were on the roster too. And, we talked about it. We talked about the draft and develop model. It's hard to stick to that. You start chasing free agents, and you start, the cool player that you've seen and competed against for years wants to come. It takes discipline led by Jason and Joe Glazer and Todd Bowles to stick to the plan and just reward your own players. But I really think that's the best way to do it. There's not a lot of guessing anymore. You're handing out really big contracts with a lot of money, but you know the player and you know the person that you're giving that to, and you can be confident that they're going to keep producing at the level they did to earn that contract.
Dan Pompei wrote this amazing article at The Athletic about Brady and earning his trust. And basically, Tom requested these weekly scouting reports before each game. And you and Rob were the guys who were assigned to do that for him. Could you just talk about doing that and what those meetings were like, and essentially going from former teammate with Tom to being his trusted strategic partner there in Tampa Bay, and how that all unfolded?
Yeah, former 20 years had passed since we had
Yeah.
shared well, 21 really, probably, since we had shared a football field or even a meeting room. I just admired his commitment to the entire process, and leaving no stone unturned to try to win every Sunday, and to have. I mean, it wasn't surprising to me that, and I had seen, like, enough literature or media that came out of New England to know that this was happening there, and I just was incredibly honored to have a small part in it. And if I was telling you I wasn't nervous as hell when he walked in the first time with Rob, I'd be lying to you. And I just wanted to serve him and help win football games. That's all I really cared about. And I was hell bent on giving him the resources or the material he needed to feel confident when he walked on the field. And I just kind of had the mentality when he walked, I can still close my eyes and see when he walked in for the first time. And I mean, we weren't really, I mean, we were like two people that are 21 years apart, and he's the greatest of all time. And I'm, a director of player personnel. And I just had the mentality of, like, I'm just going to let it rip and be confident in my evaluations. And away we went on the New Orleans Saints that September day, whatever it was, 2020.
I mean, you did it every single week with Tom, and it just before the Super Bowl versus the Chiefs, he goes out there and shares those cut ups with the entire offense, running backs, receivers, tight ends. What did that say to you when you realized that was going on before the biggest game of the year? That the stuff that I was working on with Rob and, of course, the entire staff for 18, 19, 20 weeks is now going to the entire team before the biggest game of the year? Like, for you
Yeah.
personally.
Yeah. I didn't even know what was happening. I mean, we just put those tapes together every week, and you know, I, we showed them to him, and that was where I kind of thought it stopped. And then Brett Green, the video director there, came running in, after it. And he was like, "Dude, you wouldn't believe the meeting that I just witnessed, and the clips that he showed, and how we're going to attack this guy and this guy and this guy." And he was like, "It was awesome." And I just remember thinking, like, "Well, that's pretty cool. That's pretty effing cool." And again, like, all I wanted was to win. All I wanted to do was whatever was asked of me in my job to help our team be in the right spot, the right spots to win. And if that's what Tom wanted, great. If Tristan Wirfs wants something, great. I'm here to kind of serve in that standpoint. And um, it. I always felt valued there because Jason made me feel valued. But when the players start bringing to life some of your job a little bit, there's a little bit extra that can come with that too.